watch it. I just wanted to make one English video because some people requested it, and I thought I would read a book for you, and that is in English. My next videos will be in Dutch again, so yeah, I'll just start. The book that I'll be reading is called A Kiss Before Dying, and I'll just choose a random chapter. I have this book because for my English subject in high school, I had to read an English book, and I chose this one. I don't really remember what it's about. I will read the back for you. It says, "It was nearly dark in the small room near the Stoddard University campus. The two people in the room that Sunday evening were both second-year students at the college. They were looking at each other in silence. The handsome young man was angry. His plans had been working so well, and now this news had come. But he wasn't going to show his anger. He turned and he smiled at the young woman sitting on the bed." And that's it. I will now just read a chapter from it. Part 1. Dorothy. The room near the campus. April 1950. Night was coming to the town of Blue River in the state of Iowa. It was nearly dark in the small room near the Stoddard University campus. The two people in the room that Sunday evening were both second-year students at the college. They were looking at each other in silence. The handsome young man was angry. Oh, this is the same as what I just read from the back, but anyways. The handsome young man was angry. His plans had been working so well, and now this news had come. But he wasn't going to show his anger. That wouldn't help him. He walked to the window, and for a few seconds he looked out at the lights of the town. He looked at the yellow lights in the streets. He looked at the red light on top of the municipal building. I don't know how to pronounce that. The tower, which was the tallest building in Blue River, a mile or two away. Then he turned and he smiled at the young woman sitting on the bed. "Are you sure that you're pregnant?" he asked her gently. "Are you really sure that you're going to have a baby?" "Yes, I'm sure," she replied. "The doctor told me that I'm 2 months pregnant." She started to cry. "Well, what will we do? Can we get married soon?" "Don't cry," the young man said. "Everything will be okay." He smiled again. The young woman stopped crying as she tried to smile. She tried to smile too. "Oh, let's get married right away," she said. "I'm sure that my father will like you when he meets you. We'll be so happy." "Well, we could get married immediately," the young man said, "but this isn't what I'd planned, Dorothy. You know that I had planned to meet your father in New York in the summer, at the end of the college year. I wanted to ask him for permission to marry you then. I want your father to like me, Dorothy," he went on quickly. If we are already married, when I meet him, he'll guess the reason. He'll guess about your pregnancy. He won't like that. He'll be angry. He'll stop giving you money. We'll be poor. I'll have to leave college and get a job in a store, and you'll have to leave college to take care of the baby. We'll have to live in a trailer. How will you feel about that? How will your family feel about that?" "I love you," the young woman replied miserably. "I don't care about being poor. I don't care about my family. We'll be happy, I'm sure about that. And I don't believe that my father will be angry. Anyway, we don't have any choice. I'm pregnant. We'll have to get married soon." The handsome young man walked over to Dorothy and put his arms around her. Tonight, he had to pretend to love her. "We do have a choice," he said. "What do you mean?" the young woman whispered nervously. "I know someone who can help us," he replied. "You don't have to be pregnant, Dorothy." The young woman pushed him away from her. "You want me to have an abortion?" commission. Then he'll go on giving you money. We'll rent a little house near the campus. It'll be wonderful, but you mustn't have this baby. I won't have an abortion, Dorothy shouted. You won't need an operation, the young man replied quietly. You'll only have to take some pills. I can get them from a guy in one of my classes. His uncle owns a drugstore here in Blue River. He held the unhappy young woman in his arms again. For the next hour he whispered in her ear, like I'm whispering in your ear. He told her many things that she wanted to hear. At last he looked at her watch. You must go back to your dormitory, he said. Dormitory? I don't know. He said, it's nearly 10 o'clock. I'll meet you tomorrow evening under the tree outside the pharmacy laboratory. I'll meet you at 8 o'clock. I'll bring the pills then. When his girlfriend had gone, the handsome young man put his hands over his face. Oh God, he said desperately. He had planned everything so carefully, but he had been careless about one thing. He'd only made love with Dorothy once. He'd had to make her believe that he loved her. But he'd been careless, and now she was pregnant. I can't marry her if she's pregnant, he told himself. I will not live in a trailer with Dorothy and a baby. The young man was desperate because he wanted to marry Dorothy Kingship. He wanted to marry her because she was rich. He wanted to marry her because her father was the owner of Kingship Copper Incorporated. When the young man had found out that a woman in his economics and philosophy classes was one of Leo Kingship's daughters, his life had changed. He had begun to think of an exciting future for himself. He had thought of a future with lots of money, a beautiful house and a good job with Kingship's big, successful company. Soon after meeting Dorothy, had written to the offices of Kingship Copper and asked for some information about the company. The Kingship offices in New York City had sent him some brochures. He kept them at the bottom of a drawer in his desk. Every night he took the brochures out and read them. Every night he looked at the photos of the great Kingship smelting works in Illinois, and he read about how much money the company had earned in the last year. The handsome young man wanted a good future very much. His early life had not been easy. He had been born in the little town of Manhasset near Fall River, Massachusetts. He was an only child. He had no brothers or sisters. His parents had been poor. His mother had hated her husband because he had never had a good job. Her son had become the most important thing in her life. She was interested only in him. His father was dead now, and his mother still thought that a young man was the most important thing in her life. By the time he was 18, the young man had started to believe that all women were like his mother. Lots of women had been interested in him. They liked him because he was very handsome. Usually they were older women with plenty of money. They had enjoyed making love with him, but their interest in him had never lasted very long. Each time another handsome young man had replaced him after a few months. Now he hated women, but he was still happy to spend their money. Why did Dorothy get pregnant? He asked himself angrily. She's a stupid young fool. The young man was 24 years old, 5 years older than Dorothy. He was older than most of the other students at Stoddard University. He had been in the US Army for a few years before he came to Stoddard. He had fought in the Far East in 1945, the last year of the war. That was where he had learned that it was easy to destroy lives. Although he was angry with Dorothy Kingship, the young man suddenly felt a little sorry for her. She was a very possessive person, and possessive people were difficult people to like. The week before, Dorothy had told him about another of her boyfriends, a Stoddard student, who she'd spent a lot of time with. This student had broken up with her before Christmas because she'd become too serious and too possessive about him. Possessive women frighten men, the young man thought. But he understood the reason for Dorothy's possessiveness. Her early life had been very different from his. Dorothy was not an only child. about this relationship. He had not been able to forgive his wife. He divorced her, although by then she was very ill. The three girls stayed with their father, and soon after the divorce their mother died. Leo Kingship had never been a kind, loving father, and after her mother's death, Dorothy was afraid of being alone. She'd always tried to make people like her. She still did that. Dorothy had told the handsome young man, "I'm sure that my father will like you when he meets you." But she had often talked about her father. He was a hard man. He never forgave people if he thought that they had done wrong. The young man was sure that Leo Kingship would never forgive his youngest daughter for getting pregnant, and he would never forgive her if she got married without his permission. What will I do if she won't have an abortion? The young man asked himself. There was one thing that he was happy about. He had always met Dorothy secretly. Neither of them had told any of the other students that they were meeting each other in the evenings. He didn't think that any of them knew about the relationship, and he was sure that Dorothy hadn't told any family about him yet. Although Dorothy had two older sisters, she didn't see them very often. The eldest sister, Marion, had a job in New York City, where Leo Kingship also lived. Dorothy never wrote to Marion or phoned her. Ellen, the middle sister, was at Caldwell College. Caldwell was 100 miles from Blue River in the state of Wisconsin. The young man knew about the sisters because Dorothy had told him a lot about her family, and he knew that at Christmas Dorothy had argued with Alan. They hadn't spoken to each other since then. Dorothy won't tell anybody else about the baby, the young man told himself. If the pills work, everything will be okay. Next chapter. The pharmacy laboratory. On Monday evening, the young man met Dorothy on the campus near the pharmacy laboratory. I can't say it. He gave her the 2 white pills that he had gotten from his friend. "You must take both of them," he told her. "Take them tonight. You'll probably have a fever for an hour or 2, and you'll probably throw up. But then you'll abort the baby." "What will we do if the pills don't work?" Dorothy asked him nervously. "Don't worry, darling," the young man replied. He smiled. "If they don't work, we'll get married right away." Dorothy put the pills in her pocket. "Do you want to go to a movie tonight?" she asked. "I'm sorry, I have to do a lot of work for my Spanish class," the young man said. "I'll help you," Dorothy said quickly. "I'll come to your room with you." Dorothy was good at Spanish. She was a student in an advanced Spanish class. "No, I'll be okay," he said. "Go home and take the pills now. Then you'll be okay in the morning." Dorothy didn't understand. The handsome young man wasn't good at Spanish, but usually he didn't care about it. Why did he want to do extra work for his class now? And why wouldn't he let her help him? She was puzzled. Dorothy didn't argue with him. She went back to her dormitory. She sat on her bed and she looked at the 2 big white pills. "I could lie to him," she said to herself. "He would never find out about it. I could tell him that I'd taken the pills and that they didn't work. If I did that, he'll marry me soon. We'd be happy, whatever my father says." But Dorothy didn't want to lie to her boyfriend. They were going to get married soon, and lying wasn't a good way to start a marriage. She got a glass of water from the bathroom, closed her eyes and took the pills. An hour later she had a fever and a terrible pain in her stomach. After another hour she threw up, but the next morning she was still pregnant. On Tuesday morning at 2 minutes after 9, the handsome young man was sitting in a lecture room on the campus. He wasn't really listening to what the philosophy lecturer was saying. He was thinking about Dorothy. Where was she? She was a philosophy student too, but she hadn't come to the lecture this morning. Was that good? The friend who had sold him the pills hadn't been sure that they would work. "If your girlfriend is 2 months pregnant, it might be too late," he said. "These pills are really for people who are only a few weeks pregnant, but she can try them, can't she?" "Perhaps she aborted the baby in the night," the handsome young man thought nervously. "Perhaps Dorothy isn't feeling well enough to come to class. She sat down next to the young man and put her books on her desk. She wrote a few words on a page of a notebook, tore out the page and passed it to him. The pills didn't work. I had a fever and I threw up all night, but I'm still pregnant. The young man closed his eyes. He tried not to show his anger and despair. After a moment he opened his eyes again and he smiled at Dorothy. He quickly wrote a few words on a page of his own notebook. Don't worry, we'll get married this week. He smiled at Dorothy again and he showed her the page, but he didn't tear it out of the notebook. The young man was thinking hard. Dorothy would want to get married right away. He needed some time to think of another plan. Oh God, he thought, I wish that the pills had killed her. And as soon as he thought that, something inside him changed. Suddenly he felt calm. He was in control of his future again. When the class ended, the two young people left the lecture room together. We have to talk, the young man said. Let's go into the town center. We can have some coffee there. I won't go to any more classes today, and you don't have any more classes till the afternoon. Dorothy was still pale, but she was happy and excited. Let's get married tomorrow, she said. No, that's too soon, darling, the young man replied. We have to find somewhere cheap to live. We can't live in my little room. There's a trailer park on the other side of town. Some of the married students live there. I'll talk to somebody about renting one of the trailers. We'll get married on Friday, then we can have a weekend together at the hotel and move into the trailer on Monday. Do we have to wait till Friday to get married? Dorothy asked. It's only a few more days, the young man said. Okay, I'll write to my sister Helen tonight, Dorothy said. I'd like to tell her my news right away. That's not a good idea, Dorothy, the young man said. If you tell Helen about our plans, she'll tell your father about them. He might try to stop our wedding. You can phone your family after the wedding on Friday. They argued for a couple of minutes, but finally Dorothy agreed. The two young people walked to the town center. They drank coffee in a little restaurant there. Then Dorothy left the restaurant to go back to the campus. The young man watched her leave. I'm going to have to kill her, he told himself. But everybody must think that her death is an accident, or perhaps a suicide. Yes, people must think that she killed herself. Poor Dorothy. Okay, I'm going to stop it there. I think I read quite fast, but I don't know if that's bad or good. I am not really used to reading English out loud, but I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know if you want to hear any more English videos. I don't know how many people that are watching me are actually English, but let me know in the comments